What is up, fellow YouTube artists and aspiring artists? My name is Mike with Aristotle Custom Spray Paint Art. I'm officially back from my trip. I'm set up in a new studio space, and today we are going to rock out a tutorial. If you're just finding the channel in this video, this is going to go on the back of my spray paint art for beginners tutorial. Make sure you watch that video first. Link is just down below in the description. We're going to do a little bit more advanced stuff than in that tutorial, but it is kind of based off the techniques and whatnot that we learned in the previous video. So we're going to build off that today. In front of me here is everything we're going to need. A table to paint on, a bag or some magazine paper, a little lid with a nice thin edge to make a planet, white and black Rustoleum Quick Color. This is the cheap off-brand stuff you can find at Home Depot or any other hardware store. And then into the gloss Rustoleum Painter's Touch. We're going to use a black and a white, as well as a blue and a red. And we have some clear coat for the end as well, just in case our paint gets sticky, and give it a nice finish at the end. We have a palette knife. This is just a standard palette knife. Can be purchased at any art store or online on Amazon. And last but not least, we have our glossy poster board. Always paint on the gloss side when you're using poster board. If you don't, it's gonna soak right through. So let's jump in it, guys. Based on our previous tutorial here, we're gonna make basically the same scene we did with a nice little planet up here, and then some stars, and we're gonna go from there. When adding colors into the mix, you wanna make sure that you layer your colors from light to dark. If it's a red and a blue and they're not really in the same spectrum, you can kind of just wing it. In this case, I'm going red first, then blue on top. We're gonna use this to create our planet, just like we did our moon in the previous tutorial. The only difference is we're using red and blue instead of black and white. First and foremost, you're gonna wanna lay down your planet stencil anywhere you want, wherever you want that planet to go, and just give it a quick mist. When you pull back, you're going to be left with a little circle, and that's the area you want to focus on when you're spraying your paint. Before we get too far, guys, make sure when you're doing spray paint art, you get yourself one of these. It's a respirator. It could save your life. It's definitely going to prolong your health, and it is very important for spray paint art. If you're having trouble finding one locally, check the link in the description below. Most paint companies, hardware stores, or even places like Walmart will carry these. Pick one up. It's very important. Back to our planet here. We're going to go in and fill this area with red. Not too much, guys. Always work with a little paint. You can add more if you need, but less is more when it comes to this type of art. We got our red laid down. Going with a bit of blue here. We're going to take our Rustoleum Painter's Touch white and cover over top. When doing anything with texturing, this could be the planet, this could be a mountain, you really want to make sure you let this paint sit for just a few seconds, anywhere up to really a minute, and it's going to give you some cooler textures when you go ahead and actually peel them off. You have two options when texturizing. Plastic bag, shopping bag, you can grab at Safeway anytime you go shopping, or a sheet of magazine paper. Today we're going to use a little bit of both, but you have the option of either, and hopefully you have some of this stuff kicking around the house. We're going to rip a page of the magazine, give it a little crumple, unfold it. We're just going to lay this down on top of our planet and fan our fingers across a couple times. Peel back, and we're left with our texture. If you have too much white over top, or you just want to play with it a little bit more, feel free to go back over it for an additional pass. And what we're left with is this. I'm going to go ahead and roll with this. I think it looks really cool. Next up, we are going to shade our planet. We're going to start by using this Rustoleum Quick Color. This is the cheap brand you can find at Home Depot. It has this different tip, and the pressure that comes out of these cans typically is a lot easier to work with. So you can do nice fades and nice swooping shadings with these, easier than the fire hose nozzle that comes out of this can. As always, when you're painting, make sure you shake up your cans really good. Like really good. Especially if they're brand new. You want to make sure you bust out all those solvents and everything inside. All right. Always do a quick spray off to the side, guys. That gets your nozzle nice and cleared as well. I can't tell you how many times I thought I was spraying clear coat on something and it wound up being a colored can of spray paint. When you spray off to the side, you're able to see that a little bit easier. Now you got to decide on a light source for your scene. We're going to say for this one that our light is coming in here, meaning this is going to be the shaded side. So to begin our shading, about a third way down the planet, following the curvature of the planet, we're going to go in and spray our Rustoleum Quick Color. After that, we're going to go in with our Rustoleum Painter's Touch Black. And we're going to do the bottom, I would say, 1/5 of the planet in the darker black. Once this is done, you're going to want to let this dry for a second or two. If you go ahead and put your planet stencil back on while the paint is really wet, you're going to get a ring left from the ring of this planet stencil. In the interest of saving time, I'm going to skip forward. If you want really crisp, clean planets, pause for a second, let it dry, take a break, and come back and your planet is going to be that much better. So we're going to place this on, making sure we get about even amount shaded to non-shaded planet underneath our stencil. We'll drop that on. We're going to come in with our Rustoleum Painter's Touch Black, and we are going to cover essentially the top third for now in this black gloss. I'm going to pop my respirator on for this part. Now when you're doing this part, as well as all the other sections of spray paint art, it's really important to make sure that you don't blast a ton of paint and you don't allow the paint to pool on your paper. The way you do that is by doing light bursts and keeping your hand constantly moving. You don't want to overlap onto the same spot multiple times because that's when the paint starts to build up and it's going to give you some problems. If you guys are struggling with kind of goopy paint around the edge of the planet stencil, it's a very common beginner mistake I hear about. Just make sure you start around the planet when you're spraying your black and do a very, very light mist and then focus on the rest. Even if you leave some blank white underneath the black, it's going to create a nice kind of misty, cloudy effect. You can go in and add some color and it typically looks really good. So make sure you're using less paint, not more. So next up here, just to give our black sky something interesting, we're going to take our Rustoleum Quick Color White. Again, this is the cheap stuff. We're going to stay quite a ways back, probably about 9 inches to a foot away. And we're going to just swoop across the sky any which way we please. That looks pretty good. Now we're going to come in with our Rustoleum Painter's Touch Gloss Colonial Red. You guys can use any colors you want. I picked a blue and a red because they're contrasting colors and it's going to make this piece pop. But you're welcome to use literally any color that is available to you, and I highly suggest experimenting with as many combinations as you can. I'm using red. Similar to our white here, we're just going to go across and do some misty streaks across the sky. When you put down the Quick Color White first, it actually gives a lighter layer for this red to adhere to. So in those areas with the white, the red is going to pop and it looks really, really nice. I think you'd agree. Next up, we are going to add stars. So we're going to take our Rustoleum 2x Painter's Touch Gloss White, pick it up, and spray some paint onto our fingertip. I elected not to use gloves today while painting. I highly suggest that you do. However, it's not mandatory. It's more of a pain in the butt when you go to clean up. So if you guys don't want to get dirty, You don't want to get paint all over your house and every single thing that you own. Make sure you wear gloves. It's far too late for me, so it's not really the biggest of deals. Get some white, do a nice little light flick off to the side, and then flick over top of your sky. These stars don't have to be perfect. You can do different angles and different directions. Experiment with it, play with it, and find what works for you. I do a nice first pass, and I think this looks quite nice, so we're gonna leave it at that. Now that we've set the stage with our beautiful night sky, we're going to pop our planet stencil off. As you can see in the image here, we got a little bit of the ring that I talked about. It's not a huge deal. If you do want to get rid of it, you can take your Rustoleum Quick Color Black and just kind of like mist around that ring. It softens the line of the dark side of your planet and has a pretty cool effect. So that's a nice quick way to get rid of that ring if you do have it. The best way though is to make sure that you don't even have a ring and you just let it dry to begin with. Now for the bottom part of our painting here, this is going to be kind of more new stuff for you guys. So far we learned how to add color into the painting as well as create a nice atmospheric kind of gaseous effect in the background. I've done a previous tutorial on mountains, so if you're interested in really learning and really diving into adding those into your paintings, check that video out first. That'll be linked in the description below. The version of mountains I'm going to do right now for you guys is just kind of the most popular, I would say, probably the easiest speed-wise, and in my opinion, the most aesthetically pleasing style of mountains that you could do with spray paint art. There's a bunch more ways. Please experiment, find your own little tips and tricks, but for now, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna go in, following kind of the white line here with our red, paint that in, get some blue going over top. Perfect. Get our Rustoleum white. Just kind of streak across the top here. And then our Rustoleum black. And once we have that, we're going to take our Rustoleum Quick Color white and just, again, kind of like we did for the sky, streak across here. That's going to give a misty effect for the background of these mountains. Next, I'm going to grab my plastic bag or magazine paper if you're so inclined. I'm going to put my hand in like so, and I'm using my finger right here to draw the edge of the mountains. So I'm going to lay the bag down, and using this finger, I'm just going to walk all the way across the page with one hand and pull back with the other here. Again, when you're texturing, if you wait a little while for this paint to dry, you're going to get different effects. So make sure you play around with that as well. Now you have your first mountain here, guys. Take your Rustoleum Quick Color Gloss, and you're just going to shade this mountain a tiny bit here. That looks nice. Take our red. We're going to do a second layer of mountains. Blue over top. Go in with our black. And now it's really important for this part, when we go in for our second layer, you want to leave some of this black because that's giving depth to the mountains behind our closest set. So make sure you don't creep all the way up the edge into just the colored red part here. I'm going to streak across just a little bit more mist. I like the mist. We're going to go in again with the plastic bag, essentially laying it down like so, and just drawing in our mountains. This hand's drawing, and this hand is pulling, so you got to get used to that motion of doing both. This is looking really good, guys. We're going to go in, just add some quick highlights onto these mountains by using the edge of our palette knife, kind of dragging across, pushing down with various pressure, and just etching in, following kind of the natural lines and accenting the places where light would be hitting. because our light source is coming from over here, we're gonna have a little bit more going on this part and less on these edges that are facing this way. We're gonna come in with our Rustoleum Quick Dry, Quick Color. We're gonna shade this mountain as well, just the back side. And that is how I do a lot of my mountains. Take your time, play around, get that technique with the bag down. That seems to be the trickiest part. Just remember that this is your drawing hand and this is your pulling hand. So you're just gonna go along, you can do any shape you want, don't overthink it, play around with it. Every single painting doesn't have to be a complete masterpiece. Take some poster board and dedicate yourself to doing like 15 mountains on one piece of board. That way you really get a chance to practice it when the pressure's off. Because when you're in the middle of painting and you're about to go on to the kind of the end game of the painting and finish it off with some mountains, and you're not able to execute, your whole painting's ruined, and that really can suck. I know that feeling. I've been through it a lot, and believe me, the way to do it is to get a practice board. Try that, try these kind of scraping techniques, get a grasp on it before you jump into completing a full painting. Last but not least, but very, very important, guys, make sure you sign your art. Then I like to go in with Rustoleum Painter's Touch Gloss Clear Coat and just coat my entire painting. It gives a nice kind of vibrant sheen to the whole thing. It makes it kind of come alive again as some of this paint has dried. And it's gonna stay like that forever. It's gonna have that nice glossy finish. If you want to avoid the glossy finish, I would say not to add this, but if you're painting with glossy paint, it's gonna be glossy anyway. You might as well embrace it. Hopefully this was a helpful video. If you guys were a little lost by what we talked about in today's video, make sure you go back and check out the beginner tutorial as well as my mountain tutorial. Both of those are linked in the description below. Thank you so much for watching, guys. It's great to be back painting, and I'm thrilled to continue to teach you guys some cool stuff about spray paint art. If you liked the video, please hit the thumbs up button, smash the subscribe button, and we'll see you guys again in the next video.